Even though the NHL season is still technically not over, looking forward is always an entertaining thing to do. And by that I mean looking forward to a plethora of potential trades that we could see go down once the NHL offseason is officially underway. In this video, we're going to be looking at a select number of NHL players, their current situations, and where they may be traded to. But before we get started, I'd quickly like to give thanks to my amazing patrons, Dom M, Patrick K, Caden D, Jonathan H, and Hunter B. If you'd like monthly shoutouts from me, previews on my upcoming videos, and a peek into my channel's analytics, join my Patreon today for those perks and more. Once you're on board, I will message you immediately, welcoming you, and we'll give you a shout out just for joining. Link will be below for those who are interested. And with that, here are 4 NHL players who could be traded very soon. Almost as soon as Pierre-Luc Dubois made his way north to Winnipeg, from Columbus, the hockey world began hearing rumblings that the forward wanted to play in Montreal instead. But it was around this time last year, in fact, that Dubois himself was in Montreal taking in the festivities that the NHL entry draft had to offer. Interestingly, it was around this time, according to The Athletic, that the Habs and Jets had many discussions surrounding the Quebec native. And according to the article, at the time, the two teams struggled to meet in the middle per se. At one end, GM Kevin Cheveldayoff was lobbying for current Habs captain Nick Suzuki to be the return piece, and on the other end, the Habs' next best offer was a package built around Christian Dvorak, Josh Anderson, and a first-rounder. Dubois was able to reach the 60-point mark for the 3rd time in his career last campaign. Even more impressively, it was also the 3rd occasion in which Dubois notched 27 or more goals as well. Knowing that Montreal could desperately use some help offensively, inserting Dubois into the first line would be a no-brainer. The overall speculation is that Dubois will be traded to the Canadiens prior to this year's draft commencing. It's safe to say that nothing has gone to plan in the city of brotherly love for quite some time. Prior to the Chuck Fletcher firing, we witnessed several signings and trades that were done in desperation to try and better the team. Rasmus Ristolainen, Kim Atkinson, Ryan Ellis, Kevin Hayes, I could go on, but the bottom line is that the team is still missing something. Despite bringing John Tortorella into the fold last summer, the Flyers were still unable to compete for a playoff position. And in hopes of remedying the situation, Fletcher was replaced with former Flyer himself, Danny Briere. Interestingly, Briere, when conducting interviews, recently laid out an intriguing possibility that he would be open to trading away netminder Carter Hart. Most likely, Carter will be our goalie for the future, but I'm not in a position to turn down anything, Briere said. I have to listen. While Hart hasn't had the greatest numbers, it's important to remember how much the team around him has been in shambles. Finishing out the season with a .907 save percentage, Hart, who dealt with a concussion, was yet again mediocre as far as stats on the surface were concerned. However, his potential to thrive with a winning team is largely untapped. Knowing that Philly is and has been trending toward a complete rebuild, trading the goaltender could be inevitable. Hart, who is set to receive $3 million next season, would be an ideal add for teams such as the Buffalo Sabres, LA Kings, and the Ottawa Senators. Last month or so has been quite the roller coaster ride for the average Leafs fan. Firstly, the team managed to advance to the 2nd round for the first time in nearly 20 years. Secondly, longtime GM Kyle Dubois shockingly resigned, which inevitably allowed for current GM Brad Treliving to be his replacement. And just like clockwork, as soon as the season was officially over for Toronto, rumors surrounding the Big Four began to surface. Apparently, the consensus was that Brendan Shanahan had promised Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, and William Nylander that they wouldn't be traded following the Dubois departure. However, according to TSN's Chris Johnston, that's not entirely the case. Brendan Shanahan phoned each of the Leafs' top players to share the news about Kyle Dubois, Johnston says. Those players came away from the phone conversations under the belief that Shanahan's intentions are to bring the entire core four back. That's not written in stone, and the new GM could have a different perspective on that. But those players believe they're going to be back together at this time, he said. This leads us to believe that indeed Treliving could have intentions to trade one of the Big Four. The most logical to ship off among them at the current time is William Nylander. Coming off of his best season yet out of his entire career, Nylander impressively was able to record 87 points in 82 games played, with 40 of those being goals, mind you. At 27 years of age, Nylander is in his prime and could offer any prospective team an instant jolt of offensive prowess. Also, he's nearing the end of his 6-year, $45 million contract, as he's set to become a UFA officially next year. Now, reportedly, the main interest on the horizon for the Leafs is obtaining a top defenseman. Interestingly, rumors of Nylander going to Colorado and Detroit both have begun to surface. My opinion, and probably yours too, is in agreement with Jeff Merrick's, who thought that the Avs and Nylander would be a definite match. Knowing that their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, is going to be out next season, Colorado is going to need a replacement that can immediately step in and gel within the top 6. The main piece that would make sense to go the other way would be defenseman Bowen Byram. Now, for some reason, rumblings of Detroit and Toronto doing business have also came about. However, the Grind podcast, exactly where this proposition has come from, has stated that the Leafs will be targeting Moritz Seider as a return piece for Nylander. Seider is younger and more valuable respectively than Nylander, and therefore, to me anyways, Colorado makes more sense as a destination. Back in April, we went over the previous trade rumors involving John Gibson that he reportedly wanted out. However, between then and now, there's been some recent news that sparked chatter within the hockey world. According to NHL insider Frank Saravalli from dailyfaceoff.com, Gibson is no longer happy in Orange County. Saravalli has reported that the netminder has told Ducks management that he is indeed in need of a change of scenery. And considering his team's recent state and performance, it's not hard to figure out why, as the Ducks have missed the postseason entirely now for 5 consecutive seasons. But considering the concept that we explored when we discussed Hart's situation, Gibson's numbers are more of a reflection of the team in front of him than his ability to be an elite starter. For example, looking at Anaheim's special teams, they had the second to worst power play and penalty kill in the league last season. Unsurprisingly, they struggled to score, just like they struggled to keep the puck out of their own nets, as they were second from the bottom in goals for. Obviously, no NHL goalie gets a free pass to underperform, no matter how bad their team is. But knowing that Gibson still managed to finish with a .899 save percentage is a good sign that he could still thrive if he had a better team to play for. At 29 years of age, Gibson is nearing the end of his prime. Currently close to the midpoint of his 8-year, $51.2 million deal, the goaltender has a modified no-trade clause built into the contract, meaning that if he is indeed moved, he'll be able to submit a 10-team no-trade list. A few teams that make sense for Gibson to go to are the New Jersey Devils, Ottawa Senators, and Pittsburgh Penguins. If you were able to catch a recent video of mine, we discussed as to why not re-signing Tristan Jarry would make sense for Pittsburgh. Newly appointed president of Hockey Ops Kyle Dubois has addressed his game plan for the Jarry situation. "I'll probably try to take the chance to meet him myself and get to know him," Dubois says. "It's a big decision for the club, and it's going to be doing a very thorough evaluation of Tristan and where he stands in the marketplace. Get a real score of who's going to be available, whether that's in free agency or trade, and then if Tristan is at the top of that mix." While the salary cap would be an issue for Pittsburgh, hypothetically, bringing Gibson in, who has roots in the Burgh, would be a better decision than resigning Jarry. If you enjoy my work and want to support me, you can do so by shopping with Fanatics. Since the playoffs are here, now's the perfect time to stock up on your favorite team's gear, even if you're like me and your team didn't make it. There's still daily sales to choose from. And as always, you can also support me by joining my Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.